I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and just as promised, here's my spoiler discussion for Jurassic World Dominion, now that opening weekend is over. When I am filming this, I have no idea if Jurassic World has done so well that Universal has decided to make another one of these. But at this point, I'm still going on the assumption that Dominion really is the finale. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it is, because like I said last time, it's okay for something to have a conclusion, and very few major long-running series get to actually have their conclusions anyway. So, again, my advice, let Dominion be the end, let the Jurassic series sit as it is. But anyway, getting into spoilers. First of all, I would just like to say something that's not necessarily a spoiler, but more an expansion on my overall thoughts on the film. Which is that even though I did still have a good time watching it, I will still say I think it is certainly the weakest of the Jurassic World section of this series. Now, I don't think it's the weakest of the series overall, but I do still think it is perhaps the most heavily flawed. And you may have actually guessed that I felt as much by watching my last review. If you compare the way I was in the Dominion review to the way I was for Jurassic World or Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I mean, those videos are still up, you can check them out if you want, but the way I was in those videos, I came home from the theater really excited. I was like into this. These movies thrilled me. Yeah, I was down with it. And when I left the theater for Dominion and I did the review, I was more subdued. I was like, yeah, it was good. I had a good time. It was flawed, but I still liked it well enough. So that, I think, speaks quite a bit. Again, I'm not backing down on anything I said. I'm not suddenly changing my mind and going, actually, I don't like this movie because nobody else seems to like it. No, I still enjoy Dominion. I just don't think it's the best of these movies. Not the worst either, but just sort of somewhere in the middle. Like I said, definitely weaker than the other 2 Jurassic World movies especially, but still better than Jurassic Park 3. So, there's that. And having expanded on that, now we can get into the really juicy stuff. To start things off, I've noticed something being said among certain reviewers. I'm not pointing to anyone specifically, like who have their own channels or commented on any of my videos or something. This is just a general idea I see being perpetuated, which is that the dinosaurs in Jurassic World Dominion have been relegated to the background in favor of those mutant locusts. That's something I've seen pop up more than once. The idea that the dinosaurs are somehow a background element in their own movie. Now, I don't agree with that assessment at all, but at the same time, I know where it's coming from. So the reason I don't agree with it is because the dinosaurs are in this movie a lot, like a whole lot. I think if you were to actually do a comparison, you would find there's actually more dinosaur footage in Dominion than there is in the first Jurassic Park movie. Maybe even more than in The Lost World. Comparatively, the locusts are only in a few scenes at a time, and they actually get destroyed before the finale, at least a large chunk of them do. But at the same time, I did say that I understand where this mindset is coming from, so what exactly is the source? Well, for starters, the locusts certainly have a more pressing impact on the plot. They are the new element which, when introduced, is going to bring about an apocalyptic event, because they're devouring food supplies, which is going to lead to a food shortage, which is going to lead to Biosyn having the only food that the locusts won't eat, which will lead to Biosyn having essentially a stranglehold on the entire world. So the locusts are certainly the key factor here. You could say they are given more prominence as a threat than the dinosaurs. But that still doesn't mean that they are in the movie more, or that they have more of a presence. What I think is going on here is that it feels like the dinosaurs are in it less because the dinosaurs are in it more. I realize that sounds contradictory, so allow me to elaborate. The dinosaurs are everywhere in this movie. They're out in the wild, they're being transported, they're in that little wildlife reserve that Biosyn has set up, they are incorporated into certain aspects of different cultures that we see as we go globetrotting. They are everywhere. But again, look back at that first Jurassic Park movie. There are extended periods where we do not see the dinosaurs. They're not there at all. But they're being built up to, and once they do appear on screen, even if it's only for a few minutes at a time, no second is wasted with them. We get to see them as the focus. They are the centerpieces of, well, the centerpieces, the big action set pieces that you come to the movie to be thrilled by. And that makes them stand out more. The moments where we do not have them lead to the moments where we do have them being more impactful, I guess you could say. But in Dominion, the dinosaurs have spread out. The dinosaurs are now part of the ecosystem again, and so they are everywhere. They still are the focus of many set pieces. There's the Atrociraptor chase, there's the Giganotosaurus, or Giganotosaurus as they're pronouncing it. I remember first hearing it being pronounced Giganotosaurus, but whatever. There's that one attacking things, there's the battle between that and the T-Rex, there's the Pyroraptor, the Quetzalcoatlus, the Therizinosaurus. They are focused on quite a bit. But because there are so many dinosaurs in this movie, and they are incorporated into so many different scenes, there's no build-up, and therefore it's not as stunning when they finally do appear. Let me put it this way. Think about any particular meal that you like to eat on special occasions, whether it's a birthday, or to celebrate a major event in your life or something. That is your go-to dinner slash lunch slash breakfast slash dessert slash whatever that you enjoy to celebrate. It's one of those things that as a result you probably don't have that frequently, but you associate it with those special events. If you have that same meal every single day, or at least more days than just on those special events, it might still taste good, but it wouldn't be as special anymore, right? It would just be another thing that you ate in your daily life, and something else would be associated with those special occasions. I think it's kind of like that. We do have far more dinosaurs in here, but the way they're handled is not necessarily the same as what was before, and because they're in it so much, a little bit of the wow factor has been decreased. Even though the movie desperately wants us to believe that you never get used to it, the audience, I think, is kind of used to it at this point. It's still neat to see them, and it's still neat to see what they do with the new species, but yeah, if I had to guess, that's where this mindset is coming from. But again, I don't think it's actually literally that the dinosaurs are shoved into the background. I think it's more that we've just got so much dinosaur at this point that it's easy to forget just how special they are, I suppose. If that makes any sense at all. Getting into my further thoughts on different plot details in their specifics, Let's start with something I alluded to in the no spoiler review, which is how Dodson was portrayed as sort of an evil Bill Gates type. Now, I didn't say specifically what that was based on, because going more into it would have been spoiler territory. But I did say it was interesting in light of the different rumors / conspiracy theories / actual news that has been surrounding the real-life Bill Gates. If you don't know, there's a lot to sift through, and I don't necessarily want to go through all of it here, but there is stuff like Bill Gates having a particular vested interest in how the vaccines for the you-know-what virus are distributed, or having, like, owning a particular share of different companies that control the world's food supply even. There's a lot that's been going around. And I don't know if this movie was deliberately playing on those or not. And I am not here to tell you whether or not any of that stuff is true or if it's not. I'm just saying that the fact that those ideas exist at all and they're playing into this movie, by accident or design, it was interesting to see. I mean, like, Bill Gates is one of those characters who has become a very controversial one, apparently, and now, like, seeing him essentially become the villain, I feel like, I wonder if this is what people thought back in, like, the 1930s when all the mad scientists were based on Nikola Tesla. I wonder if they had a similar sensation to what I'm thinking. And of course, by based on Nikola Tesla, I mean based on Thomas Edison's smear campaign of Nikola Tesla, but I guess you could have guessed that. Now, regarding the rest of the characters, like I said, I was very surprised at how much action and respect the original returning cast from Jurassic Park got. In fact, I dare say the whole plot with Grant and Sattler and Malcolm was actually handled better than the stuff with the Jurassic World characters. Like I said, the movie has two plots that initially run parallel to each other, but you know at some point they're going to intersect, and eventually they do. But in all of that, they play out very differently. And there's a reason I think that the stuff with the OG cast is stronger. You may have heard somebody, when critiquing a particular story, at some point say something to the effect of, a particular plot is an arrangement of moments, but just an arrangement of moments is not a story. I mean, even I've said that. When I reviewed Raiga, God of the Monsters, I noted that the movie just sort of goes from scene to scene to scene without much of a through line, and it's just winds up being a bunch of stuff that happens with not much of a plot, if any plot at all. And I don't want to say that the stuff with Owen and Claire and Maisie was exactly like that, but it's close. The first little bit of the movie, you do have an arrangement of moments, mostly designed to get us caught up on how things have changed since the end of Fallen Kingdom, showing us that the dinosaurs are spread out and how they're affecting things and how they've just become a common sight, maybe still an awe-inspiring one in universe, but it's not unheard of for a dinosaur to suddenly pop up in a particular location where they wouldn't have before. And that part is necessary. But when we get to our three main characters in this plot, we see that that still continues for a little bit. We still have scenes that are moments, but they're not immediately leading anywhere. And that is because they're trying to stay out of the plot. They don't want any involvement here. They are, for all intents and purposes, in hiding. At least Maisie is in hiding, and Owen and Claire are trying to keep her hidden. But that means they can't really do much to enter the plot until something forces them to. which is the kidnapping of Blue's child, Beta. Oh, and Maisie's kidnapping at the same time has a little something to do with it too. But still, the point is, they don't enter the plot by choice. They are trying to be passive protagonists who need to get a swift kick in the pants in order to become active. Meanwhile, with the original characters, they're active from the start. The moment we see Ellie Sattler, who's the first one of the OG cast to show up, she is there with a purpose. She has something she is trying to do, and when she goes to Grant, Grant is trying to be passive, sure. He is still where he's always been, but he doesn't really need that much persuading in order to join Ellie. And of course, the reason Ellie and Grant even have a place to go is because Malcolm was already in place, being an active part and contacting her and convincing her that she needs to get to the Biosyn sanctuary. So they are active protagonists all the way through. Even the most passive of them still is active enough that he goes along without much prompting. He doesn't really need to be forced into it. There doesn't need to be some sort of big event that gives him no choice but to join. He chooses to join on his own, even though he doesn't necessarily need to. And like I said, I am surprised that happened. These characters carry half the movie, and it is the better half. It's not just my nostalgia talking. They are actively moving forward. And I just kind of wish they'd given something similar to the other characters. Not necessarily that being passive and then being forced to be active couldn't have worked, but it could have worked better, certainly. And again, also, that's not to say that I think that half is awful. And it does make sense to a certain degree. All the same, though, audiences are more likely to be won over by active protagonists than passive protagonists, and it's the old school characters who are the active protagonists. And maybe that's because they're the old school characters. They are the ones who began this legacy and have come back to see the legacy brought to a close. So the crew decided they had to give some more priority to them. So much maybe that the other characters that they fostered from the beginning kind of fell to the wayside almost. Well, not quite to the wayside, you know what I'm saying. The fact is, though, that half of the movie, far stronger. Now, those of you who saw my Fallen Kingdom video may recall that at the end, as I was going through a list of things that I could critique the movie about, I said that I could probably make an entire video just on how the Maisie timeline doesn't make sense based on what we see in that movie. Someone in the comments section said that Dominion fixed that it actually made the Maisie timeline make more sense. And I assume they must have been somewhere in Europe where the movie debuted first, and that's why they were able to know this. Either that or they had read some major spoilers. Having seen the movie myself, I would say that regarding the claim of Dominion making sense of the Maisie timeline, it does and it doesn't. Now, it does in that it at least allows us to understand why Maisie is still a child. The way Fallen Kingdom presented things made it seem like Hammond and Lockwood split ways because Lockwood's daughter died, and since we only ever saw pictures of her as a child, it was implied she died at a very young age and died before the events of Jurassic Park, the very first movie. And Lockwood wanting to bring his daughter back through this technology that they were using to bring back dinosaurs was an ethical line that Hammond was not willing to cross, which led to their separation. And Lockwood somehow had the means to do it anyway. But that led to the question of when exactly was Maisie cloned? If Hammond and Lockwood simply split on the idea of cloning a human being, that would be one thing, but the implication seemed to be that Lockwood just went ahead and cloned Maisie anyway, which Hammond got upset by, and that caused the split. But if that happened before 1993, why is Maisie still only like 10 or 11 years old? And it just didn't seem to line up all the way. Granted, we only had so much information at the time, but all the hints were there, pointing towards a particular sequence of events that didn't really make much sense. Now, Dominion kind of engages in a couple of retcons, not like huge ones, and you could potentially look back and think, well, maybe at least one of the sources we got some of this information from might have been dishonest. I'm of course referring to Mills, who might very well have been lying just so he could get Maisie back into his custody. But even then, we're still not quite in a place where I think it makes total sense. So now it's that Maisie's mother, the woman from whom she was cloned, I don't remember her first name. I want to say that it was also Claire, but then there would be two Claires in the movie. I might be misremembering that. Remember, I've only seen the movie once at this point. But she apparently did not die young. She was dying, but she actually cloned Maisie and gave birth to her in the early 2000s, actually after the events of Jurassic Park 3, according to the little dates given in the video diaries. So that at least explains why Maisie is still a child, but at the same time that actually raises a lot more questions. Like, now we know definitively that Lockwood wasn't the one who had the idea of cloning his daughter. That's all placed on his daughter, who apparently worked for InGen on Site B, potentially while Hammond was still alive. I don't quite remember exactly when Hammond is supposed to have died in the timeline, but she's doing this under the InGen banner long after Hammond and Lockwood split. So if their split wasn't about cloning Lockwood's daughter, what was it about? Or was it still that he proposed human cloning anyway? I still don't really think it makes that much sense. Did Hammond actually know that Maisie's mother was doing this? And did he approve of it or not? Like I said, it did solve some things, but it didn't solve other things. Which, I don't know, maybe if I really dig into it, I can fully piece together everything, but right now I'm still in the category of I'm not entirely sure all the pieces fit together to form a coherent image. That being said, though, I mean, at least we get an explanation for why Maisie is still a child. And the only other thing I can really think to discuss at the moment is the finale. Like, not the last little speech over the epilogue scene, but like the climactic battle. The one in which the T-Rex fights the Diganotosaurus and gets an assist from the Therizinosaurus. Like I said in my first video, without getting into spoilers, I thought that was kind of an odd moment, something I described as more Godzilla than Jurassic Park, where we've never really seen the dinosaurs tag team like that before. We did kind of get it in the first Jurassic World, where Blue comes to assist Rexy against the Indominus. I mean, it just felt like it made more sense. I'm not entirely sure how to explain it just in an off-the-cuff video like this, but it still felt like it made more sense when you saw it. But here we're talking about a carnivorous dinosaur and a herbivorous dinosaur teaming up against another carnivorous dinosaur. And like I said, that felt like more of a Godzilla and Mothra team up against King Ghidorah moment, where that makes sense because they are kaiju, which means they're not just animals like the Jurassic Park dinosaurs are supposed to be. But when it is just animals, it feels a little bit odder. But I think, having reflected on it, I wonder if perhaps it's sort of meant to be more of a meta moment. Because, I mean, we already know the Jurassic Park T-Rex. Rexy has been there from the beginning. That is a very familiar dinosaur to us by now. But look at these two newcomers. On the one hand, we have the Giganotosaurus, Gigalosaurus, whatever, how it's pronounced. Like I said, I've heard it pronounced a bunch of different ways, but we have this dinosaur that's designed in the movie to look super reptilian. The way it moves, the way its face is, and all of its different features, they all come together to make it look the closest thing that we've ever seen in Jurassic Park to a dragon. It is, and it's depicted that way as well. But on the other side, we have the Therizinosaurus, which is a feathered dinosaur, one of several feathered dinosaurs to make its appearance here. And that is one of those dinosaurs where it feels like it was added in order to appease the people who have been calling for feathers to be added retroactively to all the other dinosaurs. It's like they're saying, we're not going to put feathers on the T-Rex or the raptors, but here's a new species that has feathers on it. And we're going to depict it inaccurately as well, but you can't have everything. Anyway, the more I think about this tag team moment, the more I wonder if it's meant to be a meta moment for the audience. I have become very well acquainted over these past few weeks with the fact that there are two very passionate camps in the Jurassic Park fandom. One of which likes the way the dinosaurs are designed in these movies as large, scaly creatures, and the other that wants scientific accuracy and for feathers to be added to the dinosaurs that have feathers. Now, for a long while, these two sides have been butting heads. And I have contributed to that in my own way. Not that I was trying to stir the pot actively, but I did still take a side in that. I am firmly on the side that thinks the Jurassic Park dinosaurs are their own thing. If they didn't have feathers in 1993, those designs have been around for so long that they've become their own thing, and why would we add feathers to them now? But the thing is, when I look at this moment, what we're seeing is a reptilian dinosaur and a feathered dinosaur working together. And of course, they're killing a dinosaur that's about as lizard-like as it can be, even to the point where it drags its tail in a couple of scenes. But it's like seeing them work together to defeat a common enemy and then share a victory roar. It's almost as if the movie is saying, why can't we have both? Look, they don't have any qualm with each other. They're working together. You can have your old school dinosaurs and your scientifically accurate feathered dinosaurs together, and who cares? If it's a movie, why can't we all just have fun? If that is the intention, I think it's something we should all adopt going forward. I don't see any reason why we can't have both. I still like the way the T-Rex looks without feathers, and I like the way the Therizinosaurus looks with feathers. They got along. Hopefully, the two camps in this whole fandom can get along as well. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but it's something I would certainly encourage. So, even though it struck me as odd at first, I think I have made sense of it, and now I think it's actually one of my favorite moments in the whole movie. So, there you go. I do think there's more to talk about, by the way. Things that have to do with themes that were being put in, or how certain characters were depicted. But again, I've only seen the movie once at this point, and in order to really go deep into what those different ideas might be, I'm going to need to see the movie more times. Don't know if that'll be in the theater, but certainly when it's out on DVD, I will be doing more in-depth analysis of it. Until then, though, those are my thoughts as far as spoilers go. And now you can feel free to discuss spoilers here as well. This is a spoiler video after all, so if you clicked on this and you're upset that the movie was spoiled for you because you haven't seen it yet, I mean, you knew going in. But anyway, feel free to discuss the spoilers however you want, and on to other things, I guess. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni viewer signing off.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books: Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.